Thank you so much for having me, honestly. I think we're so aligned in our missions and we've been working on our money mindset so much for the past few years. I think we told you when you met you and it's so life-changing, honestly.
Hello and welcome to the Money Awareness Podcast, also known as TMAP. Embark on a journey with us as we explore the world of money patterns and how they interconnect with your unique creative mind. Our goal is to help you unlock your prosperity by making one creative decision at a time. I am your hostess, Victoria Mateo. Let's get started. Today, we are going to be talking about going from point A, being pressured, to point B, being level headed, incorporating ideas of well being and work life balance in everything that we do. This applies to so many things. And today we have someone that's definitely very focused in her work in these aspects. It is my pleasure to introduce Virginie Lavallée, a seasoned film and TV producer with 15 years of experience in live action and CG animation. Her portfolio spans collaborations with major players in the industry, including renowned streaming platforms, entertainment giants, and leading game developers. And Virginie is also the co founder of The Happy Producer, a mission driven company and online training platform dedicated to promoting well being in animation, visual effects, and gaming sectors. And, by the way, with gratitude as her superpower, she shares her expertise with production crews and team leads, equipping them with the mindset and skill set of low stress, high efficiency production.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. What made work life balance a priority for you? And what should others watch out for in this situation?
As I was moving forward in my career, that the work conditions were very hard. Um, I have a background in live action, but then when I started working in the CG world, the first thing that I noticed was the long, long hours, the overtime, the less than ideal condition, the fast pace, the ambitious deadline, the high pressure environment, the fact that stress is extremely normalized, and that there's kind of the status quo of that's how it is in the industry, it will never change. And I very early on asked myself, says who? Who decided that, and who is that benefiting? Is that benefiting me? Is it possible it's benefiting my employer or a big conglomerate, but it's not benefiting me? Why would creating entertainment and producing content that brings joy to the world would not be joy inducive to me? Why is it so stressful? My stepmom is a nurse at the ER at night, and she feels like she experiences a lot less stress at work than I do producing animated content. So for me, there was just a big disconnect between what we were accepting in our work conditions and what we were outputting to the world. And I was like, how about we bridge that gap? How about we experience some of that joy and empowerment and all the beautiful values that we're very intentional about putting on screen, especially if you're working with children content and things like that. How about if we implemented them in our lives as well? And I realized as I got older, faced a lot of toxicity, bullying and harassment in the workplace, whether it be me or people in my team. And again, why why is that accepted? And I just noticed that we are just ill equipped to manage these very hard situations, these very human centric situations that we're trained around softwares and pipelines and workflows, but that when it comes to soft skills, mindsets, we're lacking a little bit of just knowledge. And I thought that the work conditions were getting very toxic when it comes to just managing this high pressure environment that we're in. So we at the Happy Producers are on a mission to make well-being the most popular topic in animation production. And one of the ways for us to do that is to address the importance of work-life balance, but really in a way of being more efficient at work. There's no reason why we work so many hours except the fact that we're not stopping to reevaluate our processes and that we're not being intentional about being more efficient and being more productive. while also having like strategies, but mainly like a mindset in which we experience less stress.
I totally understand where you're where you're coming from, first of all, and I think this definitely applies to so many industries. Okay, this is not just related to animation and VFX and gaming, because
Absolutely.
how would you define work life balance in this situation?
So I think that work life balance is something that is different for everybody, and that's something that's important to take under consideration. And I think that's the true definition of diversity, is that we are all different. For some people, it means I need to leave at 5 to go pick up my children at the daycare. For some people, it means I'm not available on Saturday for client call, or like for anything actually. For some people like me, it means no notifications. Like through 17 years of career, I've never had one notification on my phone. So the first thing to ask yourself is, what's a priority for me? If everything was possible and there were no status quos and there were no paradigms that I needed to shift, if like I could rethink anything that I want, what would the ideal work-life balance be for me? And I think working remotely has unlocked like a whole new level of work-life balance. Does that mean for you having a 2-hour lunch where you can go work out rather than a 30-minute lunch, like what does that mean for you? And that's like the thing that we usually don't do. What are my desires when it comes to work life balance? Maybe I don't mind working after 5. Maybe I have better ideas at night. And then if you're a team leader, if you're in the production crew like me, if you're a manager or anything like that, then work life balance and well being is not something we're going to sprinkle on top if there's any time left. Like if we meet our deliveries, right? If the
Yeah,
client doesn't scream, then maybe we have work life balance. It should be actually like the foundation.
I agree with you 100%, because this also leads me to the idea of like how we have to define what is important to us, right? And like in order for us to do that, someone else cannot do that for us.
Yeah.
And how do I know what is my idea of prioritizing? What is my idea of prosperity? What does prosperity mean to me in terms of my workload, in terms of my
Yeah.
life, the material well-being that allows me to be free from any distress? And once I have answered that question, what is that for me, I am going to be more productive. I'm going to deliver a better quality of content, a better quality of my work and my creativity. But I have to ask first to myself, what is it? Right? And what's a good strategy, right? Because ultimately we have to understand that when we say yes to ourselves, we're saying no to something that someone's expecting from us.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question. What would you say is a good strategy when deciding how to say yes or no?
And you say like saying yes to yourself means saying no sometimes to a request from work. I like to say saying no to something at work means saying yes to your well-being, right? So if like every other day your supervisor's like, no, but I really want to have a meeting at noon, like let's talk about this, you can just like remind them, I am never available from noon to 1. And me going to yoga makes your meeting with me like better.
Yeah.
You're gonna love me more after yoga, right? I'm better with our hard clients after yoga. You're gonna notice I'm gonna be like present and fully there for you. Whereas too, if you make me miss yoga, I'm gonna be kind of frustrated already, and then I'm not gonna get to renew my energy and everything like that. So I notice people are really scared of like sharing boundaries because they're scared the other person's gonna react negatively.
Mm.
I learned boundaries really early on in therapy, like if I'm being honest, in my early 20s, and I come to see it as a superpower. And like there's a way to express boundaries, and I've never been like screamed at for expressing a boundary or setting a limitation that's healthy for me, because usually people will say, oh, that means that I'm also enabled to voice my own boundaries. If she has boundaries, does that mean that my boundaries are good too? Yes, they are. So it like frees other people around us. And, leading by example is really, really important, both with mindset, work life balance. And there's like a really easy like tip I like to share for boundaries is that you have to, the 3 F's, right? I learned that in therapy too, but you have to share first like the facts, then your feelings, and then a fair request. So the fact is, I yoga from 12 to noon. If I don't yoga, honestly, I have low energy in the afternoon and I'm really less prone to being able to help you. So would it be okay if we meet at 1 instead? That's my fair request, right? We get asked a lot, maybe like more at the beginning of the Happy Producers. People would ask us, how do I change my supervisor? How do I change my grumpy boss? How do I change this employee that's not performing? And it's like, you don't.
You don't
You
exactly.
work on yourself. You work on yourself,
The
on
only
your
thing
mindset,
is,
on
yeah.
your soft skills. You lead by example. It is contagious. Being grumpy is contagious. Being calm is twice as contagious. Being
Hmm.
stressed is contagious. Being like level headed is twice as contagious. So like not compromising our own values. Somebody screams at you, I don't like to scream, so I don't scream back. Like I don't compromise my values.
Totally. And when you mentioned the healthy boundaries, it just like boom, opened up my mind as well because it sounds so easy. Oh, healthy boundaries. And honestly, like, and in my own experience as well, it wasn't until I understood what were my values that I was able to establish healthy boundaries. Because if I didn't know that yoga was important to me, or if I did see
Yeah.
the results, but I didn't really prioritize them, I would have never seen that this is part of those non negotiable things that I have to express to the other party, right? Because they don't know what's important to me unless I mention it. And once I know what's important to me, I can establish that boundary and say, you know what, I really care about the work that I'm going to do for you and I want to deliver. So this is very important to include in my schedule. And the time management also includes adding those other non negotiables that are important to ourselves in that schedule. It's not just, okay, the schedule, all my time is dedicated to the client because they
Yeah.
pay me to also include healthy boundaries in there. In that agenda, in my experience, I still struggle. That's the reality. I know what are my values and what's important to me, but sometimes life is different to what I am expecting. So how do I incorporate the changes in lifestyle because like I don't know, the washing machine broke and now I don't have the time that I had put in my calendar and then I feel overwhelmed with my own life and then on top of that I have all this other schedule that I have to commit to. How do I include that as well in that scheduling, in that budgeting?
I think that flexibility is probably like the most overlooked aspect of scheduling and budgeting and even like project scoping. We like to think of like scheduling and budgeting as something that's final and it's locked. Your schedule is very much alive. Your budget is also very much alive. There are some non negotiables in there, like maybe the end date of the whole project is non negotiable. Maybe the fact that we have $10 million for a project, that's non negotiable. But what do I do with that $10 million? How do I spend it? What are the choices that I make? That needs a lot of flexibility and adaptability. And surprises, as you say, will happen. And I think it's like harder in our life. You were talking about that. And I find that that's harder to achieve in our lives. But at work, I can have metrics around that, you know? Sometimes we had a fight with our kids in the morning. Our parents might be sick. Like, we have stressors. So you want to make sure that the scheduling strategy that you keep in mind has like a really like healthy buffer for the reality of life and know that it is not locked. The route might change like many times, but I'm gonna get there. Like I know that by the end of the month I'm gonna get there, but I'm not always sure the road's gonna be open. There's gonna be a roadblock. There's gonna be traffic, so I need to take that under consideration. So having metrics around that at work is really helpful. For example, if I know all my artists and my team, like they have like 4 to 5 hours every week that they log into their technical downtime, then I know that. And I'm not going to give them an extra task that they're not going to reach. And then they're going to be demotivated because they didn't reach their goal because I know. And I'm having an epiphany that this happens in our personal life as well. You're right. Like the dishwasher, the school is closed. I'm going to take under consideration what are the calendar objectives, but that's just one of the aspect of it. Like everything fluctuates. So if our mindset is that my schedule is locked, my budget is locked, then every single surprise becomes a stressor. And
Every,
like Some surprises are fun, like a surprise party, we're into it, right? Surprise, you got an unexpected check in the mail. That's a good surprise. But if every surprise we get at work or in our personal life becomes a stressor, then we hate surprises. Like we don't want surprises. And the fact is they're gonna happen.
Yeah, they
So
are.
how do I take them under consideration?
I think a lot of people have this in their minds, but most of the times we are not leaving that space to have that buffer. And I'm going to bring this same situation and apply it to the economy. The economy is constantly fluctuating. The history has shown us that there's always ups and downs. It's a roller coaster. So there's no way that we can always anticipate what will happen. What we can work with is how can I keep this to a level that if anything fluctuates, I'm still feeling stable. And for some people, this can mean, okay, have an emergency fund, or I will guarantee that I have passive income in this situation, or I will guarantee that if anything happens, I can ask for help and I know I will have a support system that will help me contain whatever's fluctuating that I'm feeling that I
Yeah.
can't support. And the same should be applied to our personal finances, even. I'm going to go back to the example of like the washing machine broke. That's going to be an expense that I wasn't anticipating. And how can I have a contingency plan for these situations? If I don't have it, then crisis is going to take over whatever I can control. And that brings me back to the idea of staying level headed. It's about seeing things as they really are, put a name on them. And that way we can actually be flexible because, okay, if we know that this situation creates stress, then, okay, I know I'm feeling pressure right now, but what's important to me? Despite whatever anxiety and stress is happening to the other people that are surrounding me. Because, as you said, it can be contagious. If someone's very stressed, it's inevitable that I'm not going to like absorb some of that because we're humans and we connect through emotions, through behaviors, through these situations.
Now, a special message from our valued sponsors. We are so grateful to our sponsors for playing an integral role in the Money Awareness podcast. Now, welcome back.
I think also like something that's essential is to always keep in mind like what we control versus what is out of our control. Yes, seeing things that they are, but like choosing how we're looking at things as well. I use the camera lens example in my field because it speaks to people. But if I'm looking at things through a 35 millimeters and it's stress inducive because I'm too like close to it or something, then maybe I'm gonna go on a 200 millimeter lens and like see it from further and have a whole different outlook that's less stress inducive to me. We can change the way we see things. Our mind, we're not a victim of our mindset. We weren't born with our mindset. The
Yeah.
mindset we have, we're conditioned by our surroundings, by our family experiences, by like the TV that we watch, like everything comes into play with our mindset. But our mindset is something we choose,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that we can change with the power of repetition. So I decide what's the mindset that I want for this to be my dream job, for me to be aligned with my values. And then I remember that my mindset is the only thing that I control. Like, if the internet breaks, like, you have no control over that. If your computer doesn't work, you have no control over that. If your colleague's grumpy, like if your client asks for too much, we have no control over that. We have control about how we manage that. What's my attitude and what's my behavior towards that, you know? And I think another way to like take the pressure off, and I think the budget's a really good space for that, is to make sure that the conversations that we have and the way that we share things are not based on opinions, but really on numbers and metrics and hard information, especially about the budget. So, like, I feel we're over budget versus we spend 80% of the budget, but we still have 30% of the tasks to accomplish, is a different conversation. The first one makes me feel stress and pressure. The second one makes me feel, okay, then let's look at solutions, right? So really, like, about the schedule and budget, having discussions that are not like I feel or I think or my perception is, but that, like, are the numbers saying? Let's not just look at what's going wrong, and just like really like stepping into a data centric conversation. I find that really helps lower the pressure and the stress, because then it's depersonalized, as you were
Yeah,
saying. And I don't know other people at work how to perceive their money, so like I don't necessarily want to go into that, because that's like your zone of genius to help them, whereas to like it's less mine. So I just want to make sure it's a numbers game and we speak in terms of numbers, and numbers are not stressful, they're information. Again, with my stepmom that's an ER nurse, she sees people like lose their lives at work. Nobody's gonna lose their lives at work. For us, even if like we're a little bit off budget or a little bit late on the schedule, like we need to rationalize sometimes the true impact of these things.
rationalize, and that's definitely the key, because we want to go from feeling pressured to I'm willing to see things as they truly are. I'm capable of doing this. And by that, I think what you mentioned earlier is about the language we use with these things. If we incorporate, like, I feel like this is going to happen, or like, I'm definitely connecting it to an emotion that can impact the result of it. And we have to recognize that and take it away or put it aside and see them as true as they truly are. Numbers that can be managed and that are not related to a personal life in an emotional capacity. Do you have any advice?
Don't think that mindset is just a word that we see on Pinterest, and don't be like, oh, that's woo woo mumbo jumbo. Like, our brain is so powerful, and there is so much available to us to feel empowered just within the way that we see things. And talking about going from pressure to being empowered, notice what makes you feel empowered and what makes you feel pressured. And there are some of the things that make us feel pressured that we can remove from our lives. If maybe like looking at the news is not a happy, like healthy space for me, then I don't. If discussing money with certain people is really like trigger inducive for us, then maybe I don't need to discuss it with, I could be friends with people and have different opinions. So really, like, just work on your, like, treat your mindset like the most priceless and valuable thing that you will ever have in your life, because it is. Like, you choose what the story is, and you choose what kind of life that you have, and it all starts with our thoughts. And if it sounds like scary to change our thoughts, or to be like, how do I start to like change my mindset, know that the power of repetition is the way that we change our mindset. So use little affirmations. If your budget is stressing you out, take a little post-it right now and say, like, my budget is an ally.
Mm.
We make our dreams come true together. If your schedule is stressing you at work, you can say, like, my schedule works for me. My
Mm-hmm.
schedule is not the boss, it's an ally.
I love this. This is a great tip. And before we wrap up, I know that you guys and the Happy Producer have some freebies. I don't know if you want to promote that a little bit here.
I think that training is like so powerful. So like, I want to inspire everybody. If you've never worked with a coach, like, reach out to Victoria. If you've never taken an online course, like, challenge yourself. Like, knowledge is power, and you can achieve anything you want through like coaching, mentorship, and courses. Like, I had never worked with a coach until like a few years ago, and it's completely transformed like my whole life, my relationship to so many things, the happiness, my work life balance, the well being that I experience. So, like, really, we don't need to do this alone. Think about an Olympian athlete, they have a coach. You deserve to have a coach as well. Like, you're amazing and you deserve the best support. Um, for our freebies at the Happy Producers, if you're working in a management role, if you're a production crew, if you work in the creative field, we have different free resources that we offer on our website. So thehappyproducers.com. We have a masterclass on how to say no to client requests elegantly and set boundaries and manage expectations in a way where your client's still going to love you and trust in you, but you're also going to be gatekeeping the well-being, preserving the well-being of everybody in your team. We also have a free masterclass about project scheduling for the creative industry, so the Happy Project Schedule. Our goal is to serve our professional community, so we offer as many free resources as we can. And then check out our courses while you're there as well. It would be our pleasure to welcome you into our community and to help you go from feeling pressured to being empowered.
I'm sure that you will get so much value from what the Happy Producers are offering. And I hope you get a lot of good value from this episode with Virginie. And I particularly feel like I did. Thank you so much for your time.
I hope this episode inspired you to continue charting your path to prosperity, one creative decision at a time. Remember to subscribe, follow, and share TMAP, the Money Awareness Podcast, on your preferred podcast platform and social media. Until next time.